Great design comes from listening to your inner voice. It's an intrinsic process, and it's precisely what the three designers on today's show will demonstrate.
I bump into a lot of friends and they're like, Chantal, how do you draw for a living? Like, how did you make it?
The most important thing is to get a reader interested because of that. And then after that, it's up to the book.
We work closely with Mark Zuckerberg. I think he's probably one of the fearless person, one of the who has an idea and he's just makes that idea happen.
Chantal Martin has turned her passion for drawing into a successful career.
There are a few basic aspects that a product should follow in order to be considered an object of good design. We can talk about shape, proportion, detail, material, finishing, all the things that must be done right to create something great. However, the truth behind a successful project might have more to do with its intangible qualities. More than an object, it's an idea that must bring value to people's lives. It has to be usable, it has to be desirable, and it has to invite people to be part of a community.
If you've never heard of Twitter, Facebook, MySpace, Tumblr and Foursquare, you might as well flip channels. But if you're sitting there wondering how you can make people follow your YouTube feed, make money from your blog, or convince your CMO of putting some money on social media, then stick around. You might be interested in what's cooking. Social media marketing is the outrage this season, and has been for a little while. But most brands are still trying to figure out how it works.
The U.S. Census is a once-in-a-decade opportunity to truly capture a nation's population. For the 2010 census, a group of agencies joined forces to deliver a truly engaging campaign that could touch everyone and encourage them to participate.
So this is a project with a target of 300 million people. It is the one brand that you could truly say we're selling to everybody.
How do we get the largest percentage of the population to share their point of view on the key questions that matter most and really help guide the government on their investment opportunities to make the U.S. a better place to live?
It doesn't happen one time. Like that emotional thing is a process that's occurred over a great amount of time until, the victim, poor kid, is just beaten.
I was tormented often during the day. Not like physically, just, a couple snide comments here and there. It just got overwhelming after a while. Because I could have dealt with it for a day or two and the whole thing would have been dropped, but with it going on for that extended period of time, it kind of got to me.
When a bully harms someone in respects to being mean to them, it's really an emotional projection. They're hurt, they're angry, they're not feeling very good, they're not feeling very loved. And when they project that anger on someone else, that individual who is in the likes of being the bullied person feels that there's something wrong with them. In effect, they view the projection of that individual being hurt as something being wrong with them. But it's nothing to do with them. They are literally a screen to be projected on.
In the world of painting, there's a rift between old and new. Some people like old traditional art, while others like the new stuff. The two seem to be worlds apart. Is the divide between the old and the new uncrossable? To find out, I've come to one of the birthplaces of New Zealand painting. This is Venice. This is where it all began. Italy's famous floating city, conjured up from a few muddy sandbanks in a lagoon.
Paris, the Bastille area. Here's the designer that the press consider the most talented of his generation, Jérôme Dreyfus. His bags are sold all over the world. Bags which cost as much as $2,600 and that sell like hotcakes in New York, Milan, or Tokyo. To Today, Jerome is working on a new line, and ever since he started about 10 years ago, he hasn't changed his way of working. I have objects that I use to fill my bags all the time to see what you can fit into the pockets.
The return to Jerusalem and the land he grew up in was the driving force behind the leadership of one of the most controversial presidents of the last century. He led his people under the most extreme of circumstances. This is his story.
Mr. Arafat, you being the symbol of PLO, are you willing to lay down your arms?
When will I will arrive to Jerusalem?
What we are trying to do, without a doubt, here, is move mountains.
We are in a very tough place, and that's what I want my film to do. It's like to put some lights, saying, hey, we're here. We need to go there, but we're here.
I had questions. I wanted the answers to these questions, so that's why I was interested in doing this film.
We didn't make a revolution to have another censorship. We already had enough. So there will be a lot of wars between artists and the government, and we are very willing to go through these wars, no matter what.
When you're documenting something, if you don't really learn lessons from it, you will never change.
This one is cones for hagfish eel traps. They all come from US and Canada West Coast. Nowhere else in the Pacific they're used. So they're making like 2,500 miles to Hawaii. And these tubes are oyster spacer tubes, and they're used in Asia for aquaculture.
In Camilo, the ocean spits out what society along the coasts of Asia and America carelessly throw away. But why here? Nikolai Maximenko blames it on a gyre, a large system of rotating ocean currents.
The reassurance that we felt was important was much more about values. It was much more about making sure that people at the end of the day said, yeah, that guy gets me.
On our side, we had a lion. We had a renowned war hero who's an absolutely wonderful guy.
I think John McCain was one of the few Republicans coming out of that primary who really had at least the potential to reach across and bring in independent voters.
John McCain had a number of strengths as a candidate. The most important was his status as a genuine war hero, a man of enormous personal courage and a willingness to sacrifice for his country. Barack Obama couldn't touch him on any of those qualities, and even his worst critics acknowledge his heroic status and his courage in the face of adversity.
Anger, fear, anxiety, incredible sadness, desire for revenge, thoughts of retaliation, and a sense of hopelessness are just some of the emotions that raged during the aftermath of the Trayvon Martin killing. Outrage with and confusion about city official inaction were fed by a pervasive sense of human inadequacy. Calls for peace, no Rodney King riots,